Well, what's going on, guys? Happy New Year. First of all, I just want to say this is the best tactical setup for this entire year. So these are the 4 formations that I think that are the best ones for this year. In fact, if you're part of my Patreon series, I would almost recommend you just to use this while you're progressing through my videos. Don't forget, if you want to come join my Patreon, patreon.com/Nil, links down in the description. You don't get better for 1 month, refund your money as a Nil Guides guarantee. Now, something that's a bit more important as well. As I do YouTube videos, I was always expecting that my audience will grow and my age group would go down. But what I'm figuring out is every year by year, my age groups goes up and up and up. In fact, I think on the Patreon, the average age is 40, 50. I think on YouTube, it's probably like 35, 40. So I just wanted to say, I tried to make these videos as simple as I can with explaining as many things as possible. That's why sometimes they do take a long time. And the reason I'm mentioning this now is those that skipped ahead just want to get the tactics. They've already skipped this section anyway. But let me know down below if there's anything I can do this year to try to help. Because I try to keep things simple, but also give you enough information where you can adapt it yourself. Because as I said, the key is adapting. I don't want you to sit there in a few years' time and say, where's Nil Guides Weekly Tactics Update? I want you to adjust things yourself. These are the 4 tactics that I think are the best ones of the year. This is also taken into account the latest patch. If you want to improve in the game, these are the best formations I would use for the remainder of the year. Maybe there might be a few updates to certain things like a 4-2-3-1 and 4-2-4. You will know that when I release a YouTube video. But apart from that, it's pretty much the best tactical layout. In fact, it's quite similar to last year, except for there was a 5-4-1 and a few other differences in that formation as well. So, in that setup as well. So, if you're part of my Patreon says you may have seen this setup already, this is the exact setup I'd recommend. The 4-2-3-1, which encompasses all the formations together. It's still the best formation inside the game. Yes, it's boring to play. This is the thing I want to say. It's the caveat. Yes, it's boring to play. But if you really want to improve, it's the best formation to close the game and to attack at the same time with. That's what I'd want to mention. The 3-5-2, which we'll come on to in a second. In fact, let's just go to it systematically. These are tactics you can literally just copy and paste these. I'm not going to tell you no variation because these are the best variations that I think is to use. 44 depth. Remember, when you hit 45 depth, your team start pressing a bit more. So 44 is just a bit of a passive amount. You can always put it to 40. So you put it to 45, it does change the way the team does press. Basically, think of it like this. They don't run out of position. Especially if you're trying to get better at the game. If you're running out with your centre back, people keep saying formations don't work. The truth is, I'm not going to tell you, as a typical Nil Guides fashion, a formation works for everyone. It might not work for your style, but if you're losing 2 games because of formation, it's your fault. It's because you're running out with a centre back. Again, I have to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and keep sugarcoating things like everyone else will because they want you to like them. If you really want to get better, you have to identify the mistakes yourself, see what you're doing wrong and fix them. Don't blame the game. We all have delay. Your opponent may have delay. So are you. It's not like one person's got one thing or one person's got another thing. So that's what I wanted to mention. So if you know that this is too much for you, too passive, always increase this. However, for defense formation, I recommend 44. Long ball, you can use balance. Forward runs, 45. And 7 players inside the box. Now, when I say start the game with, anyone can use this formation and start the game with it. In fact, if I'm tryharding, I'll probably use this formation 90% of the time. Because I can attack with it. Now, depending on your playstyle, if you're a rank 1 player, you might just need a 4-2-3-1. In fact, if you're a rank 1 player, you can probably use any formation and you'll be fine. But maybe if you're going for like 50, let's just say you're like 15 wins or maybe even like 11 wins, you have to understand when and where to change. This is a very good formation. I'd recommend slow build-up play if you really want to close the game out. But the reason why I say long ball is because when you start the game, I want you to start with the 4-2-3-1. So when you go into the game, you start. And then let's say you're winning and you want to close the game out. You can always make this a bit more passive. You can make this balanced and you can put this on slow build-up play. That's what I wanted to mention to you. And same with all the instructions. You put everyone on comeback and defense. That way they're going to help you when they defend. Stay central, getting behind, comeback and defense for both the strike and a cam. If we're talking about the best meta 4-2-3-1 here, realistically stay forward, although it makes it more attacking. Most people prefer that cam coming back. In fact, this cam coming back is the most important thing for defensive integrity because most people when they defend, they like to be aggressive. But this cam, the way it's positioned, it kind of just sits into the middle of a defensive structure and that's why it works out very, very good. Because you can use that cam to press the ball and still maintain your 2 CDMs. If you use, for example, let's say a formation like a 4-4-2, you have 2 centre mids. But then if you run out with the central cam, In a 4-2-3-1, you got the 2 CDMs or centre mids to protect you. In a 4-4-2, if the ball is in the middle and you run out with your centre mid, you're only going to have one player at the back. That is how you get numerically disadvantaged, should I say, on a turnover, especially when you're trying to attack. That is why the 4-2-3-1 still trumps a lot, because when you go forward, you can still attack with the same 4 attackers like in a 4-4-2, except for that camp. Because if you think about it, if this player was like next to the striker, it's basically a 4-2-2. So do you see, the only difference between this and the 4-2-2 is you have a cam behind the striker. That's what I wanted to mention. Just because of how the meta is, one striker is mainly used more, I would say, to be a defensive structure, maybe to close the game out is what I'd probably use, or to start the game and suss your opponent out with. So we've got comeback and defense. Lamb and Ram, comeback and defense, get into the box for a cross for both the Lamb and a Ram. Both these guys on cut passing lanes cover center, and left back, right back, stay back and overlap. So this would be, this one's actually going to be a long video. So fingers crossed, you know what, watching this on New Year's Day, and hopefully I'm not keeping you too long from going out, but maybe watch on New Year's Day and keep a change for next year. But yeah, so that is how it start. It's the 4-2-3-1. That's why I'd always advocate it still being top 3 formations. Although I may not use it in my setup, you're going to see off week, because the truth is everyone else has skipped ahead now. If you're watching this, you really want to improve week after week after week, you might not see the 4-2-3-1 in. It's because I want to go through all the formations, so that way next year there's no more weekly tactics. Well, there will be, but it's mainly just updates or hit things here and there, but you know how to adjust it for your playstyle. It's still the top 3 formations inside the game. The pros still use this on the professional scene to close the game out, and it's still very effective. So that's the game I'll start with. Now the 3-5-2, has it been nerfed? Well, technically, in theory, yes it has, but it's only nerfed certain areas, mainly the left mid and the right mid. Especially if you're part of the Patreon, so there's something that I explain in the Patreon, but this is the most ultimate formation for attacking. How do you know if you're getting frustrated in the game and how you're struggling? It's because this formation is everything. Do you like a 4-1-2-1-2? Well, this formation is a 4-1-2-1-2 in the middle with the wingers additionally. Do you like the 4-2-3-1? Okay, good. Well, now you've got a 4-2-3-1 with 2 strikers. Instead of 1 striker, now you have 2 strikers. So if you use the 4-2-3-1, you struggle. Now you got that. If you like the 4-4-2, well, you still got the 4-4-2 here, but an extra cam. So this is the total attacking formation. In fact, most formations in real life, you'll see some variation of this system. Yes, for example, you may have 1 player in midfield, and you may have a midfield 4 and 1 striker, and you have the deep players that run in deep, or the number 8s. Or the third players that run in last minute, the late runners, as you probably see, that could be a system. But this sort of system is probably one of the most universal systems in football. The reason why I say this one in particular compared to another one, this one lacks CDMs, okay? And then things like the 5-2-1-2, they are good, but they lack the CDMs, and sometimes these fullbacks are too far away. That is why when you're trying to get better at the game, the 3-5-2 is probably the most complete formation to learn to attack. This is the key. But also when you defend, you can defend in a 5-2-1-2 with 2 CDMs. It makes the most defensive formation inside the game. That is why over formation at the 5-3-2, you lose that cam player, that link-up player. That is why the 3-5-2 has been so superior. And don't forget, I've been using this since FIFA 19. It wasn't meta in FIFA 21 or whenever it was 22 when I uploaded that video. It's been meta for years. It's just some years it's a bit more effective. Now, this year, technically with the patch, it's less effective. These are tactics. I'd recommend you copying them. If you do struggle to build up, I would recommend long ball. Otherwise, the rest is fine. What I would say, though, is the 3-4-3, because you lack that cam player, and the same with the 3-4-2-1. Now, I mentioned this formation yesterday. When I released that formation 3 days ago, if you go back to the video, look at the comments, that people saying the formation is too attacking. The main thing is this cam player. A lot of players that don't really understand the game too well don't know when to bring a player towards you or players come close. Yes, if you verse my grandma and foot champs, of course you're going to win. You can win with bronze players, I'm sure about that. But once you verse someone on the same level as you, that's when it gets difficult. And that is why that cam play, when you're getting pressed, you need that person in the middle that can create the traditional number 10, put it that way. So that is why the 3-5-2 reigns superiority of the rest, because the 3-1-4-2 is no point. You know, you have 3 centre mids, but you'd rather have that cam player. So when you get the ball back, you got that link up play. You know, this, it's whether you play a diamond or whatever you want to play. As I said, it's every formation in one. So that is why this is the most complete formation. This attacks in a 3-5-2, defends in a 5-2-1-2. I'm literally going to leave these here. Stay forward, stay central, get it behind for one of them, balance on the other. Cam on, stay forward. Right mid on come back in offense, get the box across, get it behind. I would recommend putting conservative on, by the way. Something I just figured out. I used this for stamina purposes, but because now with the way the 3-5-2 is, when you attack, well, the way they worded it is very astute. They've astutely said the 3-5-2 is more attacking. In theory, yes, but what they're basically saying is the 3-5-2 is just more attacking because they don't track back as well, essentially. So when you lose the ball, you need players who've got, you've always needed pace, but I'll say high work rates. You cannot play a high-low player here. In terms of work rates, the maximum I would go is high-medium. That is the very maximum that I would never go high-low. I would say high-medium. Ideally, you want this work rate to be the defensive one to be high so they come back on time. Don't forget they play as left back and right backs. And let's say people ask this question as well. Hey Neil, I start with a 4-back formation. That's fine. I put the 2 centre backs, one of the 4 backs there. And I put one of the either left back and right back as a winger, and I move one of my wingers to this side. So structurally, the 2 CDMs and like a 4-4-2 stay the same. I just have a winger that goes here, or striker, or the 2 strikers still stay the same. Just the wing goes into the middle, one wing goes on the side, and the right back, one of the most attacking right backs, gets moved to the right hand side. CDMs both on cut passing lanes, they can cover center, left centre back, right centre back. All these guys are going to stay back, and goalkeepers on balanced. One thing I also wanted to mention as well, if you want to make this formation more defensive, you can choose whatever player you want to. So you can make this defend in a 5, I always get this confused, 5-3-1-1, because these guys come back to make the back 5. Then you can either make one of the strikers come back, and then that makes the 3 midfield with that player, so they'll be in the center, the cam, and then the 2 strikers. So choose whichever striker you want to bring back. I would say maybe the player that's quicker, or maybe the player that you like is more agile, so that way when you get the ball to their feet, they can maneuver. So in this case, I'll put Smith. So when you put her on come back in offense, you can't change this to the cam. It won't work. We change it to the cam. In fact, if you're part of the Patreon series, you're going to see a complete in-depth tactical guide where we go through each thing, how I make tactics, and what do all these things mean in different variables. But just for now, to keep things sweet, so stay. If you're on a Patreon, if you're watching this in New Year's time, maybe in a week or so, those videos will be out. I'm still currently making them, writing them up, and designing those videos. But the comeback in offense makes them come back in a 3 midfield. So Krieg will get pushed to the left hand side, left centre mid. Ona will go to the middle, and the Smith will go right centre mid. Now it depends. If you want Krieger to go on the middle, then what you would do is you would put Smith on this side like this, and then you would put Smith and come back in defense. Krieg gets pushed in the middle, and Ona gets pushed to right centre mid. So technically, the way it works, you have 1 CDM and technically 2 left centre mid and right centre mid, and that is how you can defend in a 5-3-1-1. So you have that versatility yourself if you want to make it more defensive or more attacking. You have that variation yourself. So this would be the formation to start the game with. This would be maybe more of a 3-5-2 would be more of a formation where you basically have the ability to make it more defensive, but you can argue sometimes it could be more defensive than this formation, because this one you defend in a 4-2-3-1, whereas this one you defend in a 5-3-1-1. So you have 2 centre mids and an extra defensive player at the back. So in total, this would be the better attacking. This would be the ultra attacking and ultra defensive formation at the same time. So if you really struggle with this, you can go to this. Basically, it's essentially what I'm trying to say. But I don't put an attacking slot because defensively, you're still more stable than a 4-3-2-1. So just for logic purposes, it's the reason why it's in a defensive slot. So this is made as the encompasses a bit of both. Then we have the 4-3-2-1. This is the ultimate attacking formation. This is the one with one of the fullbacks goes forward and joins the attack. The weak thing with both of these formations is you defend in the 3-back. So that is why, although it is defensive in a 5-3-1-1, you're better off having a 4-2-3-1 as your ultra defensive formation, as opposed to the 3-5-2. Because the 3-5-2, the biggest weakness is going to be the turn of play. If you lose the ball here, you're only going to have 3 players at the back. That is where you could get exploited, especially against the 4-3-2, which is a very common formation that everyone is using. So those are just a couple of things to mention as well. But if you want to see how to attack as well, that's also my Patreon series as well. Now, 4-3-2-1, these are tactics, just copy and paste these. These are the exact ones to use. You can use 71 depth, however, I would probably advise against it. You're better off just switching to a more attacking formation. This is more attacking than a 4-3-2-1, but it focuses more in the middle of the pitch, I would say. These are the instructions. This basically defends in a 4-4-2. So both the striker and the left striker and the striker and the left striker both stay forward. Neymar's on cover wing, so Neymar becomes a left mid when you're defending. Rapinoe becomes the right mid, who's on situational to get it behind, come back in events. And Krieger and Llorente stay in the middle. That's what basically makes a 4-4-2. Now, I mentioned this video yesterday. It was the best formation of the year. It's so overpowered, you just can't not include it. Now, I'm going to pause this. This is my variation. Feel free to just copy this. You can just pause this and do this yourself. And you can do this, get the box across, it's fine. It doesn't change the structure of the formation anyway. The left back and the right back. Now, the most attacking player is on during the attack, but make sure, so like Neymar is the player that's a left mid. I wouldn't want then owner to be going forward. Does that make sense? Because then you're going to be defensively in big trouble. You can do that, it's something to experiment with, but if you're not used to it, I wouldn't recommend it. The most important thing is here, look, you have to understand that this is purely to be passive. This formation, you can play A to Z quickly route 1, but you're going to have to wait for the right back to go forward so you can build up. So technically, you've got to be slower on the ball. Hence why I wouldn't recommend long ball, because even though it helps you build up, is what I'd recommend, but trying to get better at the game, it's a bit too fast. Psychologically speaking, your brain will, it's kind of like it's why I say don't use a tele camera angle. It's not just the fact that with the co-op camera angle is zoomed out and you can see all the pitch. You can see almost information on the pitch. You can see everything. You have to look at the radar. Another issue is that when you use tele, when something is zoomed in, so imagine this is a camera zoomed out. If it just moves up and down, the camera doesn't move that much if it tracks the ball. But if you imagine this small square and you imagine the ball's in the middle, if that camera is moving up and down, can you imagine that moving up and down rapidly? It will give you, it's going to hurt your head. So the idea of tele-camera angle is, although you can see more of the pitch when you zoom in, you can see more of the players on the pitch, but you can see more of the people like to see a bit more zoomed in. The problem is it makes you play quicker. There's a lot of psychology behind this. This is why I don't know why no other creators really talk about this, but the psychology of it is very, very important. And that's why it makes you play quicker. And you might find the more frustrated you get, the worse you play with a zoomed in camera angle. Because psychology here and the human psyche is very, very important. So that's something I just want to mention to you as well. But you really have to wait for this right back to go forward. If you don't want the right back to go forward, you can leave them both on stay back. But I would only recommend one player on balanced. But again, one player on balanced or get forward, doesn't matter which. Joint attack means they go forward every single time. Balance means they kind of adhere more to their work rates. But you can always put them both on stay back as well. If you're following as well some of the series, it's just that defensively people struggle because they push a player going forward and they get countered very easy. That's why a lot of players from Division 10 to Division 2, they really struggle with that. It's not necessarily because they're bad players. It's just the understanding of the game is not at that level where they know, okay, this is where I'm leaking the goals and this is where I'm conceding. Then we go to the 4-4-2-4. You can literally copy and paste these tactics. This is like the comeback tactics. Let's say, for example, you're losing 2-0 inside the game. This is the formation you will change to. Not when you're losing 1-0. This is another mistake I see as well. I didn't realize this is a big thing until I started giving random people that I don't know to test the tactics. I just said, here's the tactics, test it out. And they use a 4-2-4 as soon as you go down 1-0. Guys, if you go down 1-0 inside the game, you stay on a 4-2-3-1. It doesn't mean that you have to change the system. You know, I could play the 4-2-3 on the entire game, and I can use L1 triggers and make the formation very more attacking. Even I will still struggle with it but only if I mean, I'll always still score, but only if I struggle with it will I then change to a more attacking formation. Don't think just because you're 1-0 down, this is your cue to change tactics. It's not. I'm trying to figure out like what example I can give to this. But think of it like Formula 1. Just because you went behind, one guy overtook you, doesn't mean you have to suddenly start changing your tactics, going all out, burning your tires. You have to do any of that. I'm trying to think of an example that maybe would be easy to explain, but everyone keeps doing that. I have no idea why. But if you go 1-0 down, just scope the game out, wait like 15 minutes or so. See, because your opponent may change tactics as well. So have a think, okay, my opponent's gone 1-0 up. Let's say they've gone to defensive formation, or let's say they're being a bit more passive. Do I need to really go to a 4-2-4? If they're holding a ball, then of course you can go to a 4-3-2-1, because this formation is not the best. This one is you can press manually with it, but it's more passive, sitting back. This one I would say is a formation not to use to pressure the ball. This formation to be used, let's say if you're 2-0 down and you know you got majority line share possession because your opponent is playing more defensive. This is a formation to be pressed with. This is a formation to you need to get the ball back ASAP. What you can do is simply pause the game and put constant pressure on. You can win the ball back. As I said, I only would use constant pressure, and there's another thing I want to say is about 70 minutes. For some reason, people feel like when they're winning, they need to use constant pressure. Just because it's OP, you should not do that. I know there's a few people that do that, but it's a very common mistake. You'll be generally surprised. People don't like to admit it, but people actually do that. No, you should never do that. You should always be unbalanced. If you're inside the game, you can always use a team press D-pad tactics, or you can use constant pressure if you're really losing 2-0 and your opponent is holding the ball. Like they're pinging it from fullback to fullback. You cannot get the ball. You need to go and apply pressure. Then constant pressure can force that upon 71 depth. So this is the formation, as I said, to basically go into, let's say you're losing, let's say you're in a game, you're 1-0, it's 0-0, you go 1-0 up. I'll still stay on this formation, I try to close the game out. Let's say it's 0-0, I still wouldn't change any formation. As you move up to Elite Division, you'll realize you're only going to get 2 chances inside the game. Most of the game is like a puzzle, being outside the box, trying to work the ball inside the box to the striker. This is natural. You're not going to create chances left, right and centre. That's not the case. So I'll maybe give it 15 minutes. And let's say I think, you know what, maybe I need 2 strikers. I might skip to a 4-3-2-1, for example. So you can use any of these. This one is more attacking than the rest of them. And defensively, you're going to be weak. At least this one you defend in the 5 back and you're only exposed to the counter attack. So this one you're solid all the time. 4 back in line. This one, you're very attacking. But when you lose the ball in transition, it's the only weak point in the counter attack. But when you sit back in a 5-3-1-1, you're not going to concede in that unless you make a mistake really there. And that's just more of a battle of attrition and how patient you are and do you commit. The 4-3-2-1 is attacking, but it lacks defensive area completely because you're basically defending in a 4-4-2, but it takes time for the formation and transition. So this is not a formation to hold. So if you're like winning 2-1 or 2-0, I'd maybe considering going to a 4-2-3-1, just that way to be a bit more defensively solid, because you can still attack with the 4-2-3-1. And then the 4-2-4 is purely a formation to be used if, as I said, if you are like inside the game. Let's say you're 2-0 down at 60 minutes, 50 minutes, then you can change to it. And if you really are struggling, you can always use constant pressure. You can literally just pause these tactics and copy these. Anyway, I hope you had a happy new year. And this is a long video, but I wanted to create this just because I thought it would be very important. And those that stayed are the ones that want to improve. And don't forget, if you want to get better at FIFA, you come to my Patreon series, patreon.com/no-guides, patreon.com/no-guides, link down below in the description. Don't get above the 1 month to refund your money. And we actually have a guide for using every formation, the tactical board, how to play, what passing things to look for every one of these formations as well. With a 4-3-2-1, 4-3-2-1, also that one that's coming as well very soon. Anyways, thanks for watching. Take it easy. Happy New Year, and I'll see you next year. Peace out.